Welcome to Not a Roofers podcast, where we discuss roofing
without all the jargon. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Charity.
And this is today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Not a Roofers podcast. Today we are talking about ice dams, and we actually decided to move this episode up a little bit because of the crazy weather that's happening right now, literally everywhere. I mean, in Wisconsin, where I'm at, it is freezing and we have a ton of snow, but I hear you have some snow too, Charity.
I moved to the south so that I wouldn't have to deal with this weather. And we have had freezing rain, we have had snow, it has all melted and then refrozen, so even more ice, and then we got more snow. I woke up this morning to -6-degree weather. I don't do cold weather. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah, I mean, being in Wisconsin, it's like I signed up for that weather. Although today, as my husband so lovingly coined it, it was a nice balmy 17 degrees. So we have that going for us.
No, I did not sign up for this weather. I purposefully moved away from it, and apparently I can't get away from it. So that's so fun. But that does bring up the question of what ice dams are in both locations, because I know Wisconsin gets it, but this is new for Oklahoma.
Yep, so we're going to start with my definition. Definition of an ice dam. It is a noun, and it is a ridge of ice that forms at the edge of a roof and prevents melting snow/water from draining off of the roof.
Which, if it is not taken care of, it will cause leaking into the home, which can cause damages to the walls, the ceiling, the insulation. It can cause mold to grow. This is not a good issue to have.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest questions that if I had a home or a building would be like, how do I know if I have an ice dam with like before it starts, causing problems? And so I wrote some of the signs down. So one of the signs is that parts of your roof will melt faster than some other areas of your roof. Another one is that you have those like giant icicles hanging off the side of your roof, which personally I think they look really awesome when I see them on buildings, but it could be a sign that there is a big problem.
Or it means you don't have gutters. Houses with gutters don't get them.
Yes, but one of the signs is that you have big icicles because that means you have big amounts of water. So, like, it is a sign to look for. It does mean it could mean other things, but if your gutters are not draining, that is another sign that there may be an ice dam somewhere on your roof preventing water from being able to get to your gutters. And then, of course, if there are leaks in, if your ceiling has taken on water damage and there's leaking, or if you see wall damage, probably means there's an ice dam somewhere happening.
I wish I could draw an image for all of our listeners of what an ice dam looks like on a roof. Because there's, like you said, there's icicles, and then there's like a layer of ice right on the edge of the roof, and then there's typically melted water right above that, and then the snow covers it all, which is why you end up missing the ice dams, because it ends up getting covered by snow. But that's how the leaking is caused, because there's water underneath that snow that you can't see, and it is not frozen.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just looked it up on Google. If you type in ice dam and you go to images on Google, there are plenty of drawings and diagrams and real life pictures of what an ice dam is. So you can definitely go check those out, compare it to your own roof, and see if it is time to call someone to help you, because ice dams are not your friend.
So something else to be aware of is that ice dams are more likely caused on a roof that is not insulated very well. because what's happening is there's some well insulated spots and then not well insulated spots, and so it's causing an uneven melting point on your roof.
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the signs is that parts of your roof will melt faster than others, and that'll show you where the insulation is not as good as it should be. Because if all of a sudden one part is melting really fast, that means it's not well insulated part where heat from your building is getting out, melting that area, and then the areas that are melting slower, that's where the insulation is better.
This is a really fun winter project, but you go outside and you look at all of your neighbors' roofs, and if they don't have any snow on their roof, their house isn't insulated, and they're losing a lot of heat.
If it like just snowed recently, eventually with the
Yes,
sun and everything
eventually
else,
it
snow will
melts
come
off.
off.
It's really fun when you look at all the houses and like they're just gonna be houses with a whole bunch of snow, and then there's just that one in the middle of the neighborhood that you're like, oh, they need some insulation on that house.
Yeah. So, um, let's get into some of the biggest dangers when it comes to ice dams. So,
Well, the growth of mold and mildew with leaking, like that is hard to get out of your house if you end up with an ice dam that leaks.
yeah,
You do not want mold
I
in your house.
I accidentally wrote place things in places where they were not supposed to be in my notes. But so one, I mean, the biggest danger of an ice dam is that you will end up with a leak that will cause mildew, but it can do a lot more than that. So when a leak happens on your roof, one, it means that there is probably something wrong with your shingles now, and you'll probably end up getting loose shingles that will have to be fixed. And then right underneath of your shingles is the roof deck, which if that gets all wet and doesn't dry out properly, that can cause mold. And then there's insulation. If your insulation is wet, then again that also creates more mold and rotting and like just not great anything. It reduces the effectiveness of your insulation, and then depending on where the leak is, it can cause peeling paint. Um, it can cause staining on your ceiling wherever it's leaking. Like there's just a lot of damage that can happen, which is why ice dams again are
Well,
not your
not only
friend.
on the inside of the house either. There are issues that are caused on the outside of the house as well. Again, depending on where it's leaking. And again, if you don't have gutters, but back to the insulation, like the wall insulation, it will push that wall insulation down and condense it towards the bottom, depending on what type of insulation's in your house. But it also destroys the siding on your house and can peel off your siding as well.
Yeah, so
So it causes lots
it's
of issues that you do not want.
it's not your friend
No.
at all. So um, the good news is ice dams can of course be prevented, as with a lot of roofing issues. And you can take steps to make sure that they don't happen, or if they do happen, that they get fixed right away, whenever, like before it really becomes a huge problem. So one of the prevention methods is installing a metal roof. Um, it is a lot less likely with a metal roof that you'll get shingle damage because they're sheets of metal. Metal just also tends to heat up faster with the sun, so it's less likely that ice will be able to form and create problems on the roof.
If they don't want to put a new roof on their building, you can remove the snow from your roof. There
Yes.
there are people that, I mean, we've done snow removal on some of our buildings. Um, but then there's always maintenance companies that will come out and do snow removal.
Yep.
Especially in those areas that get snow a lot. Down here, not so sure that's a thing. Because we don't even know that. Not that we don't know snow. I grew up in the north, so I know snow, but
In
a lot of people
Oklahoma,
don't. I think the last time they saw snow like this, I think they were telling me like 10 years. It's been 10 years since they've seen snow like this, and they've
that's
never
good.
seen ice like this.
Yeah. So let's see. You can have a metal roof, um, get snow removal. Another one is if you know that your roof is a little bit older, always getting that. that maintenance or someone to check in on it to make sure that there aren't any spots that will lead to leaking in the winter if an ice dam were to happen. And also just making sure that your building, house, whatever, is insulated. That always helps to make sure that your roof is heating up the snow at the same pace to make sure that you're not having that uneven melting of the snow, which is what leads to ice dams. And also, on this is more for commercial buildings, but adding more ventilation where if there is standing water, it has a proper way to get out of the roof. This isn't so much for residential homes, as I mean, residential homes have more of the slope, so water will find its way to the gutter. But I mean, we've talked about the 7 mile long roof that Roof Medics has been on,
That's
and
big
they
roof.
have to have ventilation everywhere so that, all of the water that ends up on the roof has a proper way to get off of the building.
Which is why we were up there in the first place, because it was leaking in
Is
many
leaking.
spots.
Yeah. And then just one more preventative thing is just consulting a professional whenever you have a roof problem. So, whether that be calling somebody to come remove the snow and ice, or having someone come out in the spring and fall to just check on your roof before any of the harsher weather comes nearby. But yes, ice dams, they're not your friend. I've said it probably 5 or 6 times now, and they're something to be aware of. And I think it's something that
They're not
everybody
pretty.
no, no, but there's something that everybody should be aware of, whether you are a homeowner or a building owner. Ice dams happen wherever there's snow and ice and a roof.
What is
Our
our definition?
definition. Yeah.
I
Um,
knew what we were doing.
yeah. So our definition of an ice dam would be a
Water that, or no, not water. Well, yeah, water that freezes at the edge of the roof and
and
prevents. Yeah,
blocks.
no, I don't
No,
got it. You're gonna have to do
no,
it.
got it. Okay. It's hard because I really like the actual definition of an ice dam. I think it's
I
very
mean, can't that be
sincere.
our can't that be our definition then?
I mean,
That we have
it's
to make up our own.
me. So I mean the other definition, like I really like that it's a ridge of ice that forms at the edge of a roof and prevents other snow and
Prevents
water.
correct drainage,
Yes, sure. So a ridge of
causing.
ice that forms at the edge of a roof and prevents correct draining of water or snow from a roof. It's almost the same as the actual definition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be fair, I think ice dam is one of those things that like the term itself is almost self-explanatory. So
I mean, yeah, because you
it's
think
like
of a normal dam, it's
dam,
something that
dam.
blocks water from passing through, and that's what an ice dam does. It prevents the water from draining correctly. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
well, perfect. I hope that that has helped anyone who need to know what an ice dam is, particularly in just this crazy weather that the United States is under right now, except for Florida. Like every other place is just experiencing some crazy weather. So if you all of a sudden are finding that there is snow and ice when you are not used to it, uh, now you know what the danger is to your roof.
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Not a Riffers podcast, and we will see you next time.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. If you've been loving what you're hearing, make sure to press the subscribe button so you get notified anytime we post a new episode. Episodes come out on Monday and Fridays. Please feel free to share this podcast with a friend. We'd love everybody to be able to join us and learn more about the roofing industry as we go along on this journey. If you don't already, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. I will put all of our information down in the show notes below. Feel free to contact us with any questions or any roofing ideas that you would love for us to talk about. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time.